Ray Awareness Day. We celebrate sharks every single day here at the aquarium.
Looks like we had a technical difficulty with the sound, so we are now hopefully have volume for you guys to hear. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Like we said, it is Shark and Ray Awareness Day. Let's see here. My name is Hunter. I'm a social media rep for the aquarium. We are in our Sharks and Rays Sharks of Alcatraz tunnel today. I am joined by my colleague and social media rep, Geeta. And today we are bringing you a special presentation of Shark and Ray Awareness Day integrated with the Plastic-Free Eco Challenge.
Yeah.
So without further ado, we'll try this again.
No worries.
Now that we're all good.
Awesome. Yeah, my name is Geeta. Like Hunter said, I work here as well in the education department. So even though we're closed, that doesn't mean we are going to stop sharing all of these amazing animals with you and teaching you about them and their importance in the San Francisco Bay. Every day we celebrate sharks here at the Aquarium of the Bay, but today is extra special because it is Shark and Ray Awareness Day, and it's also the middle of July. So July is a month where a lot of zoos and aquariums and just people around the world are celebrating Plastic-Free July. So we're going to talk a little bit about the animals, of course, surrounding us, swimming around me right now, but also how plastics kind of plays a part in their life and what we can do to help protect these amazing animals and reduce our plastic use. All right, so just to give you a little bit of background, why is it Shark and Ray Awareness Day? Why are they lumped together? Sharks and rays are different animals. They are not the same, but they are related. So they are actually in the same group of animals or group of fish called cartilaginous fish. So what that means is their skeleton is actually made out of cartilage. It's not made out of hard bone. If you feel the top of your ear or the tip of your nose, that soft material you're touching is something called cartilage. It's really lightweight, it's really flexible, and that's what gives them the ability to swim really in a really agile manner. So you might be able to see some of the sharks here right now. The way they make those turns, they kind of swim by like moving their whole body in sort of like an S-shaped form. So that is one of the perks of having that really soft cartilage skeleton. Same thing with this bat ray right here. Those are wings, the kind of large fins on the side. They can really curve upwards in a really, really flexible way. Actually, when they're born with their wings wrapped around them. So those are really flexible because of that soft cartilage skeleton. If they had hard bones, just like we do, hard, heavy bones, they definitely would not be able to be doing all of those kind of acrobatics. They would not be kind of gliding through and soaring through the water like they do. So that's what makes sharks and rays related. They're in that cartilaginous fish category. That's different than, let's say, any of the other fish you might see here in our tunnel. For example, some yellow-tailed jack. We have some striped bass. Those are bony fish. So that might be like if you've eaten a fish at a restaurant or you prepare fish at home, you have to kind of be wary of the bones in them. You want to take them out maybe before you cook them. Notice while you're eating them, you don't want to get stabbed in the mouth. So that's the bony fish that are very different than the sharks and the rays. They don't have those pokey bones.
And just real quick, we do want to mention that today we are having a special fundraiser just specifically to benefit our shark research programs and our food that we feed our sharks and fish in the Sharks of Alcatraz tunnel. We are still closed to the public, unfortunately, because of the public health order, and we do rely on your support and generosity. So if you feel so inclined to make a donation today, we are so appreciative of everyone that has donated, not only to our GoFundMe, aquariumofthebayfund.org, but on our website. Those of you that have purchased aquarium face masks while we are closed, we do really so appreciate your support through this difficult time. And if you do donate today, we will give you a special shout out and thank you so much. Without further ado, we'll keep this amazing presentation going, and yeah.
Thank you all to everyone who's donated. But like I was saying, that's kind of the broad strokes of how sharks and rays are related. They both have cartilage skeletons. And sharks have been in our oceans for a really long time. Sharks have actually been in the oceans longer than trees have been on land. So if you think about that for a second, sort of crazy to think about. They've been here for just about a little over 450 million years. So they are pretty ancient in our oceans. And what that means is they have had a really long time to evolve all sorts of amazing adaptations. So an adaptation is something that helps an animal thrive in its environment. So that could be something like a behavior, maybe hiding in a certain habitat or eating a certain food. Or it could be something that actually has to do with the way their body is built. For example, being really big is an adaptation to, stop predators from maybe coming to eat you. So sharks have some pretty unique adaptations that they've evolved, like I said, over 450 million years that make them really, really important aspects of the ocean and ocean ecosystems in general. So as you're looking at the animals around here, I'll go over some of those adaptations, hopefully be able to show you some as well. That's one of our broad-nosed 7-gill sharks right there. They are the biggest shark you can find in the San Francisco Bay. They can actually get up to 10 feet long. So they are one of the top predators in the San Francisco Bay. And all of those adaptations that sharks have, a lot of them make them really amazing predators. Being a predator is a very important part of a shark's life. You might think of sharks as like top predators all the time, but that's not always true. Other ones like our leopard sharks, which you might see swimming by. That right there is one of our leopard sharks. They're one of the kind of spotted ones. They are kind of like a mid-level predator. They will eat things like worms or crabs in the sand, but they also get eaten by bigger animals like sea lions. So they might be more in the middle of the food chain, whereas something like a 7-gill might be closer to the top. Either way, sharks are preying on other animals in the ocean. And what that means is they're kind of keeping the balance in marine ecosystems. Essentially, by eating other animals, they're kind of keeping the populations of other animals in check. So, for example, let's imagine there were no more great white sharks in the ocean. Great white sharks, they love to eat sea lions. If there was no more great white sharks, there would be way more sea lions hanging around. While that sounds kind of cool for the sea lions, that actually could cause some kind of cascading effects on the rest of the animals. Because if there's way more sea lions, all of a sudden, those sea lions are going to be eating much more fish. And suddenly, there's going to be a lot less fish available for everybody else, including us humans. So it might be a little counterintuitive, but having a predator at the top of the food chain, keeping So what? Well, the first one we already talked about is their skeleton. And something about their skeleton actually makes their jaws pretty interesting. So you won't be able to see the teeth of, for example, that leopard shark right there, unless you were to get really, really close. But if you ever were to look inside of a shark's mouth, and you might have seen maybe videos of this before, you'll notice they have really interesting teeth. I actually have a shark jaw right here that we can take a look at real quick. This is a real shark jaw. It's from a reef shark, so not one that we have here in the aquarium. But if you look at the inside, you might notice there's actually multiple rows of teeth. So all of these rows of teeth are there to serve kind of as backups. And the reason they need backup teeth is they are constantly losing their teeth. Shark teeth are falling out all of the time. And that's not something they need to worry about. They won't suddenly have no more teeth if they lose that front row, because essentially this back row will kind of pop up and deploy and move up to the front where it can serve as the primary kind of tooth. And then they'll grow another one in the back, kind of like a conveyor belt. And that sort of constantly replaces the teeth, making sure the ones in the front are not only being replaced, but are always nice and sharp and in really good condition. So sharks do not have to worry about going to the dentist. Their teeth are always sharp, clean, because they're always growing new ones. And the reason why they actually have to grow those new teeth is because of that cartilage skeleton. Their jaw is really soft, so they don't have the ability to root their teeth in their bone like we do. Our teeth, as you know, are rooted into our jaw bones. It takes a little bit of effort to be placed in there, meaning when they take a bite of something, they might lose a tooth or two. So that is something that keeps them really good as predators, right? Because they always have nice new teeth growing, ready to eat their prey. But they can actually do something pretty cool to find that prey in the first place. So one of the things that they use to hunt, in addition to their agility, is but they have this extra sixth sense called electroreception. And what that means is sharks and rays actually have the ability to detect electrical signals in the water. You might be wondering, why is there electricity in the water? Normally those are two things we do not put together. But it turns out every living organism, including ourselves, emits electrical signals whether they know it or not, because of anything as small as like a heartbeat, muscle movements. Those are all actually weak electrical signals. So essentially, sharks and rays, like all these bat rays you're seeing right here, they can detect that electricity through the special organ they have around their snout. And that can basically give them a clue as to where their food might be hiding, even if they can't see it. That's really important for bottom feeders like this leopard shark right here, or the bat rays. Those are animals that kind of like hover over the sand and eat things that might be hiding in the sea floor. It's really hard to see a worm under the sand or a crab under the sand, especially if the water is murky. So they take advantage of that sixth sense to kind of hone them in on the location of their prey. So those are just a few of the adaptations that these animals have to be able to be really good predators, and like I said, maintaining the balance of their marine ecosystems. Because healthy sharks means healthy oceans. They are really keeping those ecosystems in check and making them more diverse for not only other sharks and rays, but all sorts of other animals that rely on those food webs. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that this is Plastic-Free July. So next thing I'm going to be talking about is how sharks and rays are actually affected by plastic and marine debris, plastics in the ocean. So plastics, as I'm sure you've heard, are a really, really big issue for marine ecosystems. Plastic can make its way into the ocean all sorts of different ways. It's not just people directly littering, although that does still happen. The fact that it's so much plastic is being produced and it's so lightweight means it can really easily fly out of a trash can or out of a trash truck, get washed into a storm drain, collect in a river, all of those things that kind of are pathways to it collecting eventually in the ocean. So for sharks and rays, there's kind of two main threats that have to do with plastic. The first threat is that they might actually ingest the plastic or eat it. The second threat is that they might get entangled in the plastic. So I'll talk about those specifically and what that means for these animals if they were to encounter plastic in the ocean.
I just want to pause real quick to say a big thank you to Kayla Ann Marie. She was generous enough to give us our first donation of $10. Thank you so much. We really appreciate these donations, especially as our doors are still closed to the public.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So sharks and plastic, what exactly is going on? So if you are a shark, you, like I said, are usually a predator, meaning you are going after other animals in the ocean. And unfortunately, a lot of plastic, even though it might be really easy for us to tell the difference, it can look a whole lot like maybe a fish or a jellyfish or something else that might be floating around and could be a pretty tasty snack. So sharks and rays, they might accidentally ingest some plastic items because they think it's food. That can obviously cause some pretty direct issues in their, or health issues in their body. that can even lead them to be fatally dangerous if they're no longer being able to ingest other food because that plastic's blocking their digestion. But for sharks specifically, the issue with plastics is likely more having to do with their role at the top of the food web. Because that means when they're eating all of those other animals, they're accumulating any of the toxins or any of the plastic that is in their prey's body. So let's imagine there is a tiny piece of plastic in the ocean, and one of the smaller fish, like an anchovy, for example, eats it. If an anchovy eats something like a mackerel up here, let's say a mackerel eats 3 anchovies. Suddenly now the mackerel has 3 pieces of plastic in its body. And then maybe the mackerel gets eaten by a striped bass. Maybe it eats 2 mackerel a day. Now we're up to 6 pieces of plastic. That kind of builds its way up the food chain. And if you're a shark at the top of that food chain, you can imagine how not even know that they're eating things that are not tasty fish, but in that fish are kind of those hidden threats. So being a top predator definitely makes them pretty susceptible to accumulating plastic and accumulating those toxins that can stay in their bodies for a really, really long time, because plastic doesn't go away. It doesn't degrade. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller fragments. So something like our 7-gill shark here, who is usually around the top of the food chain, definitely might be more susceptible to accumulating those smaller pieces of plastic. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about in terms of plastic and sharks is entanglement. So entanglement is when a shark or any marine animal gets caught up in a net or a line or some type of marine debris. And obviously that can be a much more obvious threat in some sort of plastic entanglement. And for sharks, it's really harmful. So you might have heard that sharks always have to keep swimming. That's kind of a common thing you hear, that sharks have to swim to stay alive. And that is sort of half true. It is true that some sharks, like our broad-nosed 7-gill, for example, they do have to keep moving in order to stay alive. The reason why they have to keep moving is because when they swim through the water as they're moving, that actually pushes water over their gills, forces the water to go into their gills, and that's how they breathe. So that's why it's really necessary for some bigger sharks like great whites or our broad-nosed 7-gills to actually keep on moving through the water so it can be pushed into their gills, which are those lines on the side of their head. It can be pushed over those to breathe. However, if you are an animal like our leopard sharks, those spotted ones, or even one of our bat rays right here, they actually don't have to keep moving. If you ever come to the aquarium, you might see some of those animals actually just sitting on the bottom of the sand. It looks like today they're all pretty active right now. They're all maybe up and excited. They might be a little hungry.
They knew we were going live.
Yeah, they knew we were going live. Like sitting on the bottom of the sand. And that is absolutely nothing to be worried about. Because animals like those bat rays or the leopard sharks, they have something called spiracles. Spiracles are like little holes, basically, on the side of their head. And that actually allows them to push water over their gills even when they're not moving. So that means, essentially, they can breathe while they're sitting down, whereas something like a 7-gill can't. So what does that mean in terms of plastic entanglement? That means that if a bigger shark, like a great white or a 7-gill, actually gets caught up in plastic, even if it eventually gets untangled, it might be like not moving for so long that it actually can be fatally dangerous. That shark right there is one of our taupe sharks. She's the only one in this tunnel. And she's another example of a shark that needs to keep moving to stay alive because they do not have any spiracles. So for any of those sharks that don't have spiracles, having like a momentary pause, even if they're momentarily stuck in plastic, that could definitely be fatal for them. Whereas maybe something like a leopard shark, they could last a little bit longer. But again, there's a lot of other injuries that could happen when we get entangled in plastic. So all this to say, there are a lot of threats facing, these sharks are facing a lot of threats out in the wild, and they're critically important to the health of marine ecosystems. And that's why it is a really important thing for us to recognize how we are impacting them and how we can make changes in our lives to keep the marine environment healthier. This is Plastic Free July. We're right in the middle of it right now, which is basically just a campaign to inspire people to reduce their plastic use. There is actually a website called Plastic Free Eco Challenge. You can go ahead and look that up. They have put together this really great organized challenge where you can sign up. You can make a team with your friends. A lot of zoos and aquariums actually have their own team. So here at Aquarium in the Bay, a lot of our staff members are on our team. And what you do is you basically choose different actions that you either already do or that you want to do to reduce your plastic use. So some examples are, you use a bamboo toothbrush, or maybe you bring reusable bags to the grocery store, or maybe you have called your representatives to ask them to introduce legislation to reduce single-use plastics. So essentially, you kind of rack up points for all of these different actions you do to reduce your plastic use. It's a really great way to kind of motivate you to reduce your single-use plastics and encourage some of your friends to do it as well, because like I said, you can start a team. Even though we're already halfway through July, doesn't mean you can't start it now. Definitely go ahead and check it out. And beyond that, I'll also just give you a few tips here that you can do to help reduce your plastic use. That might be something especially hard recently. I've definitely been having a harder time reducing my plastic use in the past couple of months because, as we all know, in the middle of a pandemic, a lot of single-use items are used as safe alternatives in terms of making sure they are sanitized and not transferring between guests and things like that. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect when you reduce your single-use plastic use. If you need to, for your safety, use something disposable, or if it's more accessible to you, then that is completely fine. But that doesn't mean you can't still try to think of ways that you can actually make a difference. So, for example, I don't know where you all are located, but here in San Francisco, reduce my plastic use. So I did accidentally sort of rack up a ton of plastic bags for the first month because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. This is a totally new environment. I don't know what's going on. So I had kind of a lot of plastic bags accumulating in my house. And then I realized that I could actually, next time I go to the store, just put all of my stuff directly in the cart, wheel that outside, and then put my groceries in my reusable bags, and then go on home. So that's one way that I've kind of managed dealing with reducing my plastic use during this pandemic. And with all those extra single-use plastic bags I have, I can use them to line my trash cans, for example, for the next couple of months. So just thinking of creative uses for those plastics are really great. You might have seen Hunter sporting one of our reusable face masks that we are selling at the aquarium. Again, this is another reusable alternative to like single-use face masks. Face masks are really important to keep us all healthy right now, but we want to make sure that we are getting the most use out of them and not just discarding them all over the place. So you can definitely check out the Aquarium of the Bay's website to order your own face mask. We have a lot of different designs which celebrate all the animals in the aquarium. So check that out, or if you have the ability to make your own face mask, that's a really cool thing you can do as well to reduce your plastic use. So that's about it in terms of Shark and Ray Awareness Day and reducing our single use of plastic even during a pandemic. Hunter, I don't know if you want to add any kind of final thoughts or anything.
Absolutely. On that note, we do want to say thank you to both Kayla and Marie and @VK14 for the generous donations. The face masks directly support all the animals. There are over 24,000 marine and terrestrial animals in our care here at the aquarium. And any way you can support us, whether it's tuning into this video, whether it's following us on social media, or purchasing a face mask, or even just a small donation, helps us so much exponentially, and we so appreciate all of your support, especially while there really is nothing we can do besides sit and wait for the city to let us reopen. If you are interested in virtual tours, we have now made available both corporate and private and family group virtual tours for you guys to sign up for. If you guys are interested, please send academy@bay.org an email to inquire. We currently have 5 different themed corporate tours available, depending on what you guys are interested in, whether or not you want to see something like otters or the octopus here or some of the sharks or even behind the scenes. And we currently have a behind the scenes virtual tour available to family and private groups with expanding themes in that realm as well. So we can't tell you guys enough how much we really, really do appreciate all the support that has come our way over the past few months. And definitely encourage your friends and family. Go ahead and share this video because we are passionately trying to educate the public in a virtual way as best we can during these hard times. And want to know anything else about the aquarium or the sharks and rays specifically, go ahead and comment here, and even after this live stream is over, go ahead and comment, and we would love to answer any and all questions that you guys have. Again, visit our website if you guys would like to purchase or see one of the face mask designs. We did receive the otter masks finally, so those are now available for immediate shipping right out of our facility. If you guys ordered one of those already, they are going to be on the way very, very soon. We're sorry for that delay. And with that being said, Tuesday, everyone. We'll be back next week for another live video. And if you guys want to schedule or inquire about a virtual tour, again, that is academy@bay.org. We want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. If you guys want to see something else in a live video, feel free to send us a DM, let us know. Any and all input is more than appreciated from you guys, and we hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday and a great rest of the week. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and we will see you next time from Aquarium of the Bay and the Sharks of Alcatraz Tunnel. Bye, guys.
Bye.